was a big help. This was followed a year later, beginning in late November, after the presidential election of 2008, when Barack Obama was elected. There was a slight majority of Democrats in Congress, and they issued a report from the House Select Committee on Energy Independence and Global Warming, concluding that humans were causing global warming and climate change. That was in late November. And then in December, a Senate minority report by the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee issued what is called the Minority Report that refuted that, disputed it, and that report, the Minority Report, was joined by more than 650 scientists from around the world. So there was a almost 50-50 split of opinion on whether humans were causing catastrophic climate change. The interesting thing about this is those who had the slight majority began to advance the view that 97% of the people concurred that the humans were causing climate change and insisted that we move on, that the debate was over. But as we've shown, the consensus claim is a total hoax. And the science now actually, a lot of science disputes it. So when in 2008, when that minority report came out, I remember following it. I got a copy of it, I read some of it, and I tried to find some books. There were very few books that dealt with the climate change issue that I could find at that time. But I will tell you, in the 10 or 12 years since then, there have been numerous books that attack this, so that it is clear there is no consensus that humans are destroying the climate through their actions. So that was followed by what is called climate change. In 2009, someone hacked and published over 1,000 emails of individuals who were involved in the climate research unit of the United Kingdom's University of East Anglia. And when the emails were disclosed, it was shown that many of the participants in the climate change, that humans were causing catastrophic climate change, that they were manipulating evidence and saying things that they knew were not true. They were caught red-handed, artificially manufacturing evidence. And as this became known, a number of scientists began to look more closely at the work of the IPCC. And of course, these emails, these people caught red-handed were working hand in glove with the IPCC. And at that point, a number of the scientists parted ways. One of them was Judith Curry, who we talked about on another program, who was chair of the School of Earth and Atmospheric Sciences at Georgia Tech. And she explained that based on that, she had to look more carefully and began to see that some of the conclusions that she had accepted without, doing independent research, that they were not true. They were based on problematic foundations. She parted ways with the IPCC, and other scientists have similarly distanced themselves from the IPCC since then. In 2016, the United States became involved in the Paris Climate Accords. Secretary of State John Kerry signed those accords. They were not ratified by the Senate and probably have no hope of being ratified because it would take, I think, a 2/3 vote of the Senate to ratify them. So as you know, when President Trump was elected in 2016, he quickly departed from the Paris Climate Accords. And then when President Biden was elected in 2020, he promptly entered the U.S. back into those climate accords. But the climate accords are a problem for at least 4 reasons that I want to explain. First, the catastrophic predictions about climate change are speculation that is not supported by science. Second, the measures called for in the Paris Accords will not affect or improve the climate. Third, the accord requires the United States to make substantial and expensive steps to eliminate fossil fuels rapidly. and to build solar and wind energy systems, but this would disrupt the economy by killing jobs and increasing energy costs. The urgency to do this is not warranted and it will actually cause more problems, and it won't fix the problem they say exists. And finally, the nations responsible for 72% of the world's human greenhouse gas emissions are not committed to do anything. They include India, China, and Russia, whose populations comprise more than 40% of the world's population. So by exempting China and Russia and India, the accords, what they do is there is no international consensus. It puts an excessive burden on the U.S. to do something that is futile. It is a total waste. Finally, we'll talk about the Green New Deal that was first introduced about 2019 or 2020. And AOC was one of the proponents of it. When it was introduced in a bill in the Senate, one of the senators who opposed it called for a vote on it right away, and it was initially voted down 0-57. Nobody voted for it. A lot of people voted present, so they wouldn't have to vote against the bill. But the reason it failed at that point was because it was immediately forecast that it would cost about $93 trillion to implement the Green New Deal. And nobody was in a position to justify such a great expenditure. So it kind of languished, but actually it has now gone forward in other proposals. It was a part of President Biden's Build Back Better plan. It was a part of the bill that was introduced and passed in the pandemic. They paid a lot of money to deal with the harm from the pandemic, and so it is, and it continues to be part of some of the proposals in Congress today. One of the measures that's been politically at the forefront in the last year is the infrastructure bill. And the infrastructure bill, in fact, includes many aspects and components of the Green New Deal, although they're quiet on that and pretend that's not the case. Here are some aspects of the Green New Deal that I think are alarming. So the Green New Deal was tagged primarily as an environmental proposal, but actually the meat of it is actually a socialist and economic program that would be drastically expensive and transformational, moving us more towards socialism. And so it's a great concern to me and many others. Here are some of the aspects of the Green New Deal I just want to mention briefly. Guaranteeing a job with a family-sustaining wage, adequate family and medical leave, paid vacations, and retirement security for all people. 2, providing people in the U.S. with high-quality health care, affordable, safe, and adequate housing, economic security, and clean water, clean air, and affordable food, and so forth. I want to highlight, though, the high-quality health care. Now, health care is not now one of the main issues that has drawn national attention. It was 5 or 10 years ago, it was the big issue. But if you're going to have government health care and you're going to have premium health care for everyone, this is economically not sustainable. This would create a real problem. We would not be able to do what we set out to do. If there is going to be some kind of health care for everyone, it's going to have to be at a minimal level. It's just would not be economically sustainable. You can't have everyone a right to the most expensive new procedures that come around as they come around. All right, third, the upgrading and repairing of our infrastructure by eliminating pollution and greenhouse gases, including upgrading buildings, roads, and our transportation system. If you follow what's going along right now, as the price of gas has doubled in the last year and a half, and as it has gotten worse due to the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, the government proposal and the Biden administration is, hey, well, you're going to have to suffer with higher gas. Everybody's going to have to get an electronic vehicle, and hey, that's just the way it is, and we got to do what's right. the problem with this, all these things will be costly, but the science doesn't support that these changes are going to affect the environment. That's the problem. It's futile, and it will hurt the economy at the same time. And another couple of points with the Green New Deal. Massive growth is needed in clean manufacturing, removing pollution and greenhouse gas emissions from manufacturing and industry. Well, of course, they're going after the coal industry, and shutting coal power plants down is a prime objective. But the problem, again, is what the coal emissions are doing to the environment. It's not causing global warming, and the extra CO2 that it is emitting is slight in the entire scope of things. And frankly, we'll run out of fossil fuel before the burning of coal ever does anything of disastrous effect to our climate. And finally, the point I'll mention that the Green New Deal is working collaboratively with farmers and ranchers to eliminate pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. This includes curtailing the beef industry. And basically, as you watch the food prices, you'll see that they're on their way to doing this. So that just is a quick summary of some of the things that have happened. And it's interesting, though the hoax has now been exposed to those who are willing to see it, yet fanatical and damaging policies and programs continue to roll forward in the Biden administration. And the damage from the hoax will closely follow unless we eventually come to acknowledge it's a hoax and step back and examine scientifically sound policies and that are warranted by the science. So that's our discussion for today. I hope that's helpful. Remember that the liberties we enjoy in America can be maintained only when its citizens are moral and informed participants in the democratic processes. The closing arguments can help us to do this. And I encourage all of you who are interested, you can get my book, The Climate Change Hoax Argument, at my website, www.cpaulsmith.com. We'll see you next time. This is Paul Smith.